Good afternoon, guys. All right, we've got a few minutes before we begin. Give everybody a chance to get situated here. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. We've got a few minutes here to get situated, and then Martha Stewart, or goodness gracious, I'm so sorry, Martha Sweeney is going to be joining us. Thank you, guys, so much for joining. This is going to be amazing. Just waiting for her to join with us. Oh, and she is here. All right. Let's see if we can get her brought up here. All right, guys. We are finally live. Thank you all for joining us as we dive under the cover of Petulant Shadows. With us today, we have Martha Sweeney, the mastermind behind Petulant Shadows, and she's going to be discussing with us some of the details, the inside scoops, some of the character details, all that good stuff. All right. Let's see if we can get her up here. See if I can figure out how we can get it so that she can be up here to talk with you guys, so that she can explain your book herself.
All right. Mercy,
I was like, I have
thanks.
no clue what to tell you how to fix it.
I was like, I got it. I just can't get the button. Okay. All right. Now we are cooking with bacon grease. All
Nice
right.
to officially meet you.
You too. Thank you so much for doing this, even though that was totally flustering.
It happens. I mean, technology is awesome, but also a pain in the butt. So no worries.
Isn't it?
It is what it is.
All right, guys. So to give you guys the ones that are just now joining, I got the pleasure of being able to read an ARC copy of Petulant Shadows, and I cannot explain to you guys how amazing this book is. Do you want to maybe give us a little bit of detail? I know that I've heard that this is one of your first paranormal thrillers. Is that right?
Yes, I'm a multi-genre author, and this one kind of came about within the last year. I do a lot of extensive research on things and not your normal sources. I always like to learn new things because that helps me write stories better, to be more identifiable characters. I have a psych degree background, so I've studied animal and human behavior and the
Oh,
psychology of it and everything. So with a lot of research and stuff that I've just been doing and things that I've been learning over the years, this story came about, and I just started writing it, and at first I wasn't sure. Like, I'm like, it's a little dark,
It's a
darker
bit
than most
different from,
things.
yeah, it's a bit
Yeah.
different from your other reads, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, because it touches on a subject matter that is going on, and it's ultimately it's a dark thriller, but it's got a romance side to it. It's got suspense to it, but it does have a supernatural, paranormal way about it in order to give the subject matter something easier to kind of be presented. I think is the best way for me to explain it. So it just yeah,
No, yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it's
And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say one of my favorite parts about how you wrote the book was that it's got the paranormal aspect to it, but it's in a way that is believable. Like it's something
Yeah.
that it's not, you know what I mean, like your typical witches and werewolves type paranormal, you know what I mean? So it's got a different spin on it, and so I really like that about it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a not any human trafficking, sex trafficking, just any kind of human degradation in any kind of scenario is not a fun picture to paint, even though
Yeah,
that's what happens
absolutely.
today. Still, so it was a way to, and it, just so readers know, it's a third person point of view on purpose because it's Paisley's story, but at the same time, it is the story of this community that she finds herself in, and what she's dealing or dealt with. And then once she's in the town, she deals with it again, but in a different perspective. But they have dealt with it similarly without knowing what it is. I don't want to give away too much because, as you
Yeah,
know, with
yeah,
reading
yeah,
it.
yeah. No,
Um,
absolutely.
so it's a survivor story. That's, I think, the biggest takeaway I can give to people. Yes, there's some, not so nice. I don't really go into full on like depictions of stuff on purpose. I mean, I don't need to make it that gory, but the trauma that she ensued from being abducted when she was young, to the amount of time and how she was treated, to when something snapped in her to where she suddenly runs, and that's when you're meeting her in the beginning of the book. Literally, Grayson, the main male character, comes across her in his territory, which is really more. I mean, back then, even like, I mean, it's he has land, but it's still like the land that's everybody's. He just utilizes it for his trade and stuff like that, and it's her growth from what she went from, and I mean, some of her manners and behaviors are childlike to some degree, but also of a person from a abusive relationship standpoint. So she's inept kind of when it comes to certain social things, as well as reading social cues, because she was in this such negative environment that she doesn't know how to interpret similar movements and similar speech, because it's all been acquainted to this negative verbal, physical abuse that was put on her for a long time in her life.
Yeah,
And she
absolutely.
slowly starts to learn through the story that that's not how most people operate. And she starts to gain friends and falls in love, and even wonders herself if she is worthy of love, as you've read. And it's just this beautiful journey of this woman. I couldn't do it from like a child perspective, or even a man. I'm not a man, but from a
Right.
female perspective of what it would feel like, and the mental side of it of, you want to entrust people, but then you have moments where you feel like you can't trust them, even though it's really just, the behavioral side of it that it's been so ingrained in you. And so then, but it's not just, like I said, her story. It turns into Grayson's story. It turns into the entire town Bernhardt story, because that they've dealt with something similar in the past. And it's just, it's an emotional ride in a sense, more so at the ending, because it's, like with any kind of suspense or thriller, it's the build up, the build up, the build up, and the climactic ending. But there is a relief. There is almost, in a sense, like a rebirth for Paisley, I think, is the
Yeah.
best way to put it. So,
That's a good, yeah, no, that's a really good way to put it, because her character growth from the beginning of the book, where she begins, to where she is at the end, is phenomenal. It's amazing. She makes such a turnaround, like, and like we had talked about before, in our messaging, I struggle sometimes with third person view, I mean, point of view books, and it's just a personal preference, you know what I mean,
yeah,
and I think a lot of it is just because a lot of books that I've read that's been in third person, I feel like the author struggles to really be able to blend all the different personalities and
Yeah.
characters and make it flow so seamlessly. And but that's what happens in Petulant Shadows. Like you did that so well.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
because without being able to have all of those different perspectives, the story wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can read first person or third person. It doesn't bother me. My take on it is whatever the story calls for. And at first I was thinking on maybe doing it from her eyes, but at the same, it is, but then you get the other little hints of the personalities and the viewpoints of some of the other members. So she doesn't see everything because she wouldn't see everything when she's stuck in her mindset or
Yeah,
in her
exactly.
way of doing things, because of that's how she was ultimately beaten to believe and to think and to act in a sense. And
Yeah,
so these
absolutely.
other characters help her grow and see that there's more to that. But then they also grow because of her. And you kind of need to see this because it's, like I said, it is her story, but at the same time, the human trafficking and the abuse and stuff is a community
It's eye-opening.
suffrage in a sense because it doesn't just happen to that one person. It happens to the family, it happens to friends, it happens to everyone because it's either they know how to handle that situation or they don't. And if you're not immersed in it or have had, like, someone who knows someone kind of a situation,
Yeah,
it's very
absolutely.
different, but it still affects, I think, the greater scheme of our culture, of society, and the way that we interact with each other. And I mean, there's crazy stuff going on in the world right now,
Oh yeah.
and stuff. And I think, like I said, as much as this is Paisley's story, it's the community story. It's a matter of growth for everyone, just like even through the crazy stuff that's happening right now, even just, the fires in Lahaina, Maui, and even in Canada. And I just saw recently, apparently the Canary Islands are dealing with some major fires too. This is a time for people to come together
Yeah.
as a community more so, no matter what the trauma or the issue is. And it stinks because sometimes the trauma is what kind of reshapes and reconnects people,
Yeah.
but
Well, a
then
lot
it'll
of times
make us stronger.
yeah, and a lot of times it takes that trauma for people to be aware of what's even going on.
Yeah.
When they say that bliss is happiness, I mean that like there's no lie to that statement at all
Yeah.
because the more blissful we are, the more oblivious that we are. So and so it's books like Petulant Shadows that kind of allows you to take a step back and be able to put yourself in a situation that you might not otherwise be in, and that kind of hit home for me, especially because that's something big that's in our relative area. Like I live down in Southern Ohio, and it's terrible, but we have women that go missing every day, just
Yeah.
poof, gone. And I mean, people will talk about it for a little bit, and then after a while, it just kind of gets pushed under the rug because it's one of those
Yeah.
things that nobody wants to deal with.
Yeah.
And
It's like
so
with
that,
the railroad issue that happened in Ohio. Major events like that is when children and women go missing. I mean, I know that I mean, I see external rather than mainstream media for like in Maui, and there's over 1,000 people either dead or missing. And that
yeah,
includes a lot of children. And even the mayor is like, well, I don't have anything to report on that. It's like, how do you not have anything to report?
yeah, it's
People need to be aware, not just the families who have lost someone, but this is the time to do something and make a difference. And it stinks, but at the same time I think that between this book and just everything that's going on, it's almost like we're reconnecting not just with ourselves but with our fellow man and woman, in a sense that, okay, we need to maybe do things differently to prevent this stuff from continuing, in a sense.
yeah.
And I mean, I've done a lot of research, and then with the book, there's the ebook, and I have ARCs available still. And then I don't know if you've seen it. So readers know I do have not just an ARC sign up, but there's one of seven. They can win one of seven book boxes. I'm doing a limited edition hardcover of this. And so the hardcover, it's the same story, but the cover, certain pieces of the cover are a little bit different. And then the first chapters of the book, the imagery is going to be a little bit different, but they'll be able, and it'll be signed. And but I'm only going to ultimately have like probably about 200 of these hardcover copies for print. And you're of course going to get one because of this. I'll be sending it to you as soon as I get it. I'm
Oh, okay.
finalizing the last details this week to hopefully get my proofs to really make sure like the printing side of like the covers and everything line up. But it's just so people can still request ARCs, just like, I don't even remember. It's like just all of a sudden I was like, yeah, here you can get my ARC, and then boom, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh wait, we're doing a podcast. Wow.
Yeah, I kind of slipped that in.
Yeah. Oh no, it's okay. It was like, I mean, you even saw, like, when we were messaging, I was like, and I even prompted you. I was like, if this is not your cup of tea, because I know the subject matter, I'm not going to be offended if you don't like it. I'm not going to be offended if you don't want me on your podcast, even though I'm the first one. I'm the volunteer, and I don't mind. This is all for the greater good of people connecting and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, no,
You know,
absolutely.
my internet. There we go. It was being weird. I'm like cutting out a little. There we go. But so yeah, it's just I don't even know. I go off. My brain is like running a mile a minute with so many different things to say. So you better go, else I'm gonna like go off tangent.
Yeah. So I guarantee it. But the I will have to point out, and I hope that it's not too big of a spoiler. But I have to mention my favorite quote out of the book real quick, and I know it's one that I kind of sent to you in the messages too. But
Hmm.
the quote was, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb," and
Hmm.
that, out of all of, and I've read a lot of books, I do a lot of reading, but out of all of the books that I've read, like that's one of the quotes that is permanently embedded into my brain now.
Hmm.
That quote could not sum up Paisley and Grayson's characters and their relationship and their dynamic any better at all. Like,
Yes.
I feel like that is the most fitting quote for this book that I think I've ever read.
Well, that, and even the community. I like we said, we don't want to give spoilers, but with the way that certain things unfold, as you know, with some of the elders of the town, and that they accept them in that higher form, which allows them to do what happens at the end of the book, is just amazing. It's you vote. I mean, most people, they hear the blood is thicker than water, so you think, oh, I mean, family, and it's nothing against family. I mean, you're born in with them, but
Yeah, can't do anything
sometimes,
about that, unfortunately.
yeah, but and you love your family, even if there's, you might not be. There's people who, don't speak with their family or have issues with your family, and that's you have to deal with it the way you deal with it. But
Yeah,
people, they misconstrue the blood is thicker than water. Yes, they're your blood, but at the same time, the concept of the quote, the blood of the covenant. The covenant is really the community, the friends you
yeah,
make, the people that you choose to really be
yeah,
in your life.
yeah. It's your
You know,
people.
yeah, you choose that. It's a conscious decision, and that's what Paisley and Grayson do for each other. That's what they do with the animals, because he's a rancher, and then also the people within Bernhardt, they choose to accept. I mean, and you hear it, and there's certain of the three, Bernhardt and the other two, they are very particular on who they let into their community because of this stuff in the past. And so it's very different. There is like that constant sense and connection to someone, your mother, your family, your people who gave you birth. I mean, that's the water of the womb. That's really just really the mother. And like Paisley's story, she doesn't go to seek out her former family. She stays with Grace, and she stays with this newfound community, whether it be, fear,
She
shame,
found her
or
place.
any number of things, she feels accepted. And so that's where, like I was saying before, with community, it doesn't matter where you're born, what, race. We're all the human race, and this is really, we choose to act and to be, in a sense, in honor, and to respect one another, and to try to do what's right for each other, as long as it doesn't harm another person. And that's really where this story stems from, you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. The whole thing from beginning to end, I was wrapped. Like I said, it took me a little while because my littles are insane. It took
Well,
me a
yeah.
minute to be able to sit down and focus on it. But once I started it, I think I had it read cover to cover in probably 3.5 hours. Like,
Wow. And it's
I was
it's not
told.
a short read. I mean, if I remember the exact word count, to some degree, it's just over 100,000 words too.
Yeah, there was a lot.
It's, yeah, which is not uncommon for the genres that it falls under. but it was very, it's like, even for me, when I have one final read through before, before I send off, to order the hardback and the paperback, just to double check everything. Pardon me. So it's like, even that, there are times where I'm, I will read through, and it's not to be quick, but it's like I have to stop writing. I have to stop focusing on any other story temporarily to really make sure, okay, did I get everything? Did I miss something? Because there are sometimes like little idiosyncrasies, and it's not even like grammar or something. It's just like, oh, I forgot to add this, or oh, I need to tie this. This isn't clear enough, where it's a teaser. It's like, it's kind of telling you what to possibly expect without telling you point blank what's coming down the line, kind of a thing. So I'll probably have it like read through between, by the weekend, the latest, like, and I'll just read straight through, and then I'll get the proofs. But then like with me, like when I finished, like when I wrote this, there were parts that I breezed through, and there are other parts that I literally had to like step back and kind of go, okay, I need some time, because it's a heavy subject matter, and I wanted to do right by the characters, and even by the people who are victims and survivors of being survived human trafficking. So it's like I want to honor them, and I want to respect them, and the emotions that are behind it. To put myself, like I said, I did a lot of research, and I've seen a lot of videos or photos of things where it's disheartening and sickening. Where and I'm sure there's people who are uncovering this stuff that see far worse imagery, but it's just even the stuff that is revealed. It's like I'd had to reveal it to myself, and the soul at some point, it's like, okay, I need to speak on this. But then even when you're speaking it, trying to maintain the story, but be positive so it doesn't affect me. But absolutely. Then hold true to the story and honor anyone who has had this done to them, young or old,
trying to put yourself in their shoes. I mean, especially never have gone through that or experienced that, So I can imagine that it'd probably take its toll, because I know as a reader, I like to, I envision myself almost as the character sometimes when I read, especially if I really relate to the character. So I can imagine as the writer, because as a writer, that character is a part of you in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, you created that person from beginning to end. You orchestrated their whole entire lives. So that in a way, it's almost like putting your soul on paper. So to be able to do that with Paisley, you know what I mean, and in a way that is so authentic, you know what I mean, when you haven't experienced that, you did really well. You did really well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I know this is the first book of mine that you've read, and every book has something about me in one form or another, something about me, a thought, a viewpoint, and even viewpoints change because when you learn more information, like even about this kind of subject matter and stuff. But there's something in each of my books, and even some of the romance, I purposefully try to put something in there, even if it's not just about me, but about life, about something that can aid someone or give them another perspective or viewpoint. And, I even did a post not too long ago, like on TikTok, where, because you see on, here on TikTok and on Twitter and everywhere, people get offended by the littlest things.
Yeah.
And life is supposed to be, in some respect, offensive, because how else are you supposed to know if you like something or not?
Absolutely.
Life would be boring AF if if everything went your way, because then it's like, and it's not because you want the drama, but it's different perspectives make you stronger as an individual. And then it also allows you to see somebody else's perspective and, okay, why would they do that? Or why would they think that? And I think it like the blood of the covenant allows you to connect with people on a deeper level. So, I recently posted, like, if I haven't either offended you or made you stop and think about something with any one of my books, then I'm not doing my job as an author.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to please everyone. This book might, if it was read by someone who did the trafficking or the abuse, might be offended by the book. Good. I want you to be offended in one form or another, because I want people to, in a sense, be mad So that way, I mean, it's set in a fictional world, but human trafficking exists.
Yep.
On the
Yeah.
inside cover flap of the hardcover, I have 5 different facts about human trafficking that I got from a main company, which is I don't know how many people have seen about this. And oddly enough, I started writing this before the movie even came out. The movie Sound of Freedom. It's about a guy who worked for, I think it was the DOJ or the DOD or something like that, and he ended up leaving and starting Our Rescue. It's our underground railroad kind of thing, and he went on his own personal time and expense, and his wife was supportive and everything. And over the years, he created this and worked with people. He's not government funded; it's all privately funded, and he's rescued children. So
That's
this movie
amazing.
is about just a small snippet of how he got into doing what he's doing, because he would go and they capture the people who were trafficking and abusing, but then that's all they did. They weren't able to follow through. And okay, where are the kids? How do we put somebody away? Great,
Where do
but
we
there's
go
always
from
another
here?
person. And so, Our Rescue is really them, and then the guy's name is Tim Ballard. He continues doing it, and he's speaking out about it, and there's a couple of other organizations that are doing it too. But I mean, it just, the very fact that it's happening still, it didn't happen just in the past. It's a form of human slavery. It's just different, but the facts are there that I shared from them in the back of the book, because it's astronomical about, in America, not just in America, throughout the entire world,
Yeah,
how many
everywhere.
women, children, male and female, are being trafficked. But the good thing is, I mean, if you look, it's not even in the mainstream media, but you'll see it sometimes in the media where there are, they'll suddenly show to you that they've rescued this many kids, and they've rescued this, and they've rescued that, and they've put this many people behind bars. So stuff is happening, and I think that's where, like with this book, if more people become aware of it, it can, and it's not that you want to draw your focus and create more of it, but you need to be aware that it's happening to prevent it from happening.
Yeah.
Like
No,
there's a
I
lot of
absolutely agree.
yeah, there's a lot of TikToks out there, and it's great because especially women. There's a couple of women that are in law enforcement or other types of jobs where they're telling women, like, I'm not young, but I'm not old, and you could still end up getting picked up. But they're saying if you see something zip tied on your door handle, if you see even like something on your windshield, don't touch it, because that's someone marking your vehicle. And so,
Yeah.
like, when you're going in and out of places, you need to be aware of what's going on. I mean, even situations, like I said, with Maui and other places, kids are going to disappear in one form or fashion. People take advantage of those situations. So it's as the covenant, as our community, we need to be conscious. Even if we don't have children, we have to be conscious for our neighbors' children to not
Yeah.
allow that to
Absolutely.
happen to them. Whenever my husband and I go out places, I'm constantly trying to pay attention. Okay, this woman's got those kids. They're with her. She's, and I'm watching behaviors. Okay, is this, it's like I said, I don't want to draw it in, but I want to be aware. So if something happened, he and I can intervene if we
Yeah.
had to, because, it could take 20, 30 minutes for the cops to show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And it's one of
it's
those,
just
and
crazy.
that's one of the, it really is. And it's one of those situations where, unfortunately, in real life, not everybody has a happy ending like Paisley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I guess that's the plus thing about, being able to write it into a fictional book, you know what I mean, with fictional characters, is that you can kind of,
Yeah.
you can spread the awareness of it without, you know, I don't know how to say it really. Like, I guess you could spread the awareness of it without it being so heavy. You know what I mean? In a way that
Yeah.
people can read it and comprehend it without it seeming like too much. Because, and I think that's a lot of reason that people ignore situations like this, is it's heartbreaking, and who wants to have their heart broken other than us crazy
Yeah.
readers?
Yeah, there's so many different ways to handle it, and everybody grieves differently. Everybody handles different situations differently, and I don't wish it on anybody.
Yeah,
And that's where it's the finding the strength, like this story, finding the strength within to really say enough is enough. And
yeah,
and that's, like I said, Paisley's story is she went through the darkest of things. I mean, one of the main quotes is she's seen the belly she was swallowed and seen the belly of the beast of all that it is and all that it is. And Grayson's like, but you came, but you got away and you're here with
Yeah.
me. It's like he
Made
was
it out on
holding
the other
on to that
side.
one thing, you know, and it's that, you know, little things between him and then even Evelyn, she's a hoot, Eloise is a hoot, like each of their personalities. And I mean, in each way that they deal with it, but just these little like idiosyncrasies of the way that they say something or do something, and it's all helped to shape even Father Emmanuel. I mean,
Yeah.
there is a Christian feel to this. I'm not peddling any one kind of religion or saying one is better than another. You know, I was raised Catholic. I've done tons of studies and read different kinds of things. I believe that there is God. You know, people can be offended by that. I don't care. I believe that there's a higher power source, but I also believe that that higher power source is within each of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you read one book or another of religion, I mean, in each of the religious texts, you know, we are made in God's image, which means we are his sons and daughters. We are not meant to not embrace our own inner power.
Right. And
And
it's
so
the ultimate
that's,
circle of light versus dark, good versus evil. So to be
yeah,
able, and that's kind of what I was planning on when I said it's not your typical paranormal, you know what I mean? Like it's got a little bit of flavor stuck in there with it. So
yeah, yeah. It's a hint of there, and it's just meant for, like, I mean, yes, in the story, I mean, like I said, it's a Christian suspense because they do mention the Bible, but it's not. I mean, you saw it, Evelyn. She questions certain things, and she has
yeah,
good
it's a
reason
way
to
to
it. I
bring
won't
it
go
full
into it.
circle.
Yeah, yeah, and it really ultimately it doesn't matter what religion, what this, what that you believe. To me, it's ultimately how do you treat other people? And I mean,
Exactly.
one thing that my husband and I adhere to in any instance, any person, any regard, situation, love thy neighbor and do no harm. And so
Exactly.
as long as you're not intentionally, I mean, harm can happen and you can offend someone, like even just me speaking. I could offend someone. It's not intentional harm,
Yeah.
but that's their choice too at the same time. So, but if you don't intentionally intend to harm someone, have you really hurt them? Because it's like there's stuff that's happened to me. I've forgiven people. Why? And people would say, I could never forgive. Well, I think forgiveness deals with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's an
Yeah.
energy that you
Absolutely.
choose to cling on to. And if you don't let it go, kind of like Paisley in the story at some point,
Yeah.
you can't rise above. You can't grow and blossom into what you're meant to be in one form or a fashion as an individual, as a partner to someone in life, as a parent, as anyone. And so that's my viewpoint as a whole. Yes, like I said, it went into a little bit mentioning the Bible and stuff like that, but it really is more of a spiritual side of it,
Yeah.
of
I think
connecting yourself, with the power, the source within you.
Yeah, I think that is what's going to help a lot of people be able to relate to her character on a personal level too, is because it's like you said, a lot about self growth. You know what I mean? So it's about you being able to accept yourself for who you are, the things that you've been through. You know what I mean? And no matter how dark your past may be, you can't overcome that. I mean there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how dark it may seem. And I think and Paisley goes through that. If she doesn't, if she does not experience that firsthand, then I don't know who doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is how do you choose? How do you choose to live? Do you want that past to decide for you who
Yeah,
you're going to be and continue to be? Because I mean, there's people out there that get through that kind of abuse and shine. And
yeah,
then there's other people who can't come to grips with that abuse and then foist it onto others.
yeah. And I've seen it.
You
I've
know?
seen it firsthand both ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either way, it's a difficult situation. But it's one of those where you just kind of you have to ask yourself.
Hmm.
Do you want to be happy? And I think that's eventually the point that she got to was do I want to be happy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you got to quit thinking about and dwelling on all the negatives, and you have to start focusing on the positives in your life
Hmm.
and let that make things better.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
No, I definitely recommend it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, without any qualms whatsoever.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I enjoy seeing different people's reaction, even the people who don't like my stories. It's like, okay, I wasn't your cup of tea. But
Why?
I might have not, you might have not liked it, but because you didn't like it, I struck a nerve.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
that's what a book should do. I mean, there have been books that I've read. There was one by it was back in the day by an indie author, and I gave her, I didn't give her 5 stars, but I gave her like my honest review. I said, if I had read this book 10 years ago, I would have loved it. But
Yeah,
I'm a completely different person
yeah,
reading, even though she had just released it. I'm a completely different person, different place in my life. And and that's how I try to review things. It's me. I mean, reviews, the way that things are, it's all subjective. I've had experiences in life that no one's had or had similar to, but their experience is very different than my experience in a
oh
similar
yeah,
situation. And so with reviewing, I mean, I try to go into every book. I don't go in blind, but I try to not kind of see what people are saying, because it's like, okay, how is this going to affect me? And there's stories that people love that I don't. And there's
yeah.
people that people don't love and I do.
Yeah, I go every book that I read, I go in blind. Like I'll read the blurb,
Yeah.
but I never go through and read other reviews first. I always
Yeah.
end up reading and because like you said, I and my tastes are so different. Like I don't specify on any certain genre. I will
Yeah.
read just about anything you put in front of me, quite literally.
Yeah.
And most
Yeah.
of the time I'm gonna love it. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't typically review, you know what I mean? I don't review a book based on how well it's written. You know, if I can connect with the character on a personal
Mm-hmm.
level, then I'm probably gonna give it 5 stars. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if it made me feel something in some sort
Mm-hmm.
of an extreme way, be it whether it made me cry or I laughed or I got so mad I could almost throw the book across the room, it's
Yeah.
probably gonna get a 5 star rating because
Exactly.
it made me feel, and that's what I look
Yeah.
for, and that's what Petulant Shadows did. That's what Paisley did.
Yeah.
Like yeah, there was parts in there where I was almost in tears, and then there was other parts where it's just it makes you giggle. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like the audacity of some of the characters are just they're a hoot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way with reading and reviews. It's like my tastes are so wide. I mean, I think that's why. I mean, I started off in romance, but I always had the objective, like, I'm just gonna write whatever kind of comes to me. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
prevent myself from writing a story just because I'm trying to fit in a particular genre. I don't eat only one type of food. I don't watch only one type of movie. I don't watch only one type of TV show. Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
use just salt and pepper when you're seasoning food. You've got a whole
What fun is
cabinet
that?
full of seasoning, you know? And so to me, writing, it's different avenues of me, of life. And I mean, some people would even say, like, well, why don't you, write under a different name? I'm like, you know how much of a pain that is to market different names and different brands? No. It's like,
Yeah,
I
I
mean, there's
agree with
other
you.
authors that do it too. And so it's like I write according to how it is. I started off in romance. I got into a romantic suspense, and then I went back into some romance, and then I did a dark fantasy romance series, and then I went back into, and then I went into historical romance.
You've got
And
all the colors.
yeah, and then before this, I released back in June the final book of my my fantasy romance series, Slave Rider. So it's all over the place, and that was my first book slash series that was third person too. And as much as, I mean, there were some people that read it and they wanted the first person, and it's like the story doesn't call for that, because
Yeah,
like in this story, there's more than just the two main characters, which in that one is Noelle and Nicholas. It's loosely of like the Klaus versus Frost, the whole fairy tales around that, those names and everything. But there's other characters that have growth and stuff too, so that to me had to be a third person, because like in some first person books that I've read where they're jumping around between 3, 4, 5 different POVs, I'm just like, oh my God.
well, See that
To
that
me,
was
by
my
that
first
point,
reaction. I panicked
yeah,
when I first started reading it. I was like, oh no. And like I said, and that's just a
yeah,
perfect personal preference for me, and it's for that exact reason. Just because
yeah.
sometimes it's so hard to be able to differentiate between, well, okay, which character is, you know what I mean, which character is talking now, which character is doing so now. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that issue with this book. I didn't struggle with that at all with Petulant Shadows. It glided so smooth from one into the other that it at some points I almost forgot that it was a person point of view. It just kind of happened the
Yeah.
way that it was meant to happen.
Yeah, yeah, it was weird for me too writing it because it's like, do I want to write it like this? And then it's a little like almost like you said, it flows all of a sudden. It almost has to feel jarring too in the
Yeah,
first couple of chapters because that's how Paisley feels.
yeah,
She suddenly finds a moment where I'm free. Am I free? I don't know if I'm free. Oh my God, am I in a similar situation? Is he one of them? Is he not one of them? I'm not being struck. I'm not being hit. I'm not being abused in one form or another.
totally different.
So yeah, so her perspective, her emotions are jarring because it's so contrary. So it's kind of like, and that's what I noticed even when I've read back through things. I'm like, okay, I could see where this might throw some people off, but that's her. She's kind of
Yeah,
quirky jerky because she's so confused and so almost inept in the sense of, how do I talk to him? How do I interpret him? How do I talk to these people? How do I interpret them? I'm trying to be respectful because I know that if I'm not, certain things could happen to me, but then she falls into her groove in a sense. And it's very eye opening and very heartwarming too to see that. And at first, like, I was like, maybe I need to smooth out the beginning a little bit, but it's like, no, that fits because it's like she's trying to walk on a log on water.
yeah.
And it's bobbing
That's the
on
perfect
her.
way. Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe it. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so much fun.
Isn't it? Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I was super nervous leading up to it. I was like, I don't know what to expect, but this is going so much better than I ever thought it would.
Oh, good, good. Well, when you initially wrote too, you're like, I'm a little nervous. And I'm like, but she's doing so great with all her other videos. Like, just be yourself, be natural. It's so funny too, because like with me, I mean, you and I in general could probably talk for hours.
Yeah,
I'm the kind of,
I'm such an extroverted introvert. So I
yeah,
like to think that I'm outgoing. Like once I get into it, I'm perfectly fine. But getting me started,
yeah, the initial kind of couple of steps. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one thing that I love is that I can be introverted when I need to be. I can be extroverted when I want to be or need to be. And it
yes.
also depends on the situation. My husband is full blown extrovert. And there are times where I'm just like, he can have that. I'm going to just be back here and I observe. And sometimes people will think I'm not extroverted, but I'm watching and observing people. And it's not to judge, it's oh, okay, he's doing that. She's
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
You gotta get a read
could I
on
put
it.
this in a book?
Yeah.
Could this be an issue between characters? Like, how could I make this and this that's working out fine suddenly turn into a mess? Like,
I I guarantee it. I would probably have a little microphone, recorder in my purse tucked away. So like, on this date, this happened in the grocery store. Like,
yeah, right, yeah, right. And that's what I think. With your personality too, with the way your videos were, I'm like, she's totally extrovert. I can understand that the nervousness, and some authors are just like, yeah, no, like the only reason, I mean, you'll see most of my videos, most of my stuff, I'm not on camera. It's not about me. It's about the book and it's about you guys, the readers. Did I offend you or did I make you happy or cry or whatever? It's what kind of an impact did that story elicit or pull out of you? It's not about me. I mean,
yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, do we really care what other authors and people look like or sound like or how they really view life or what's going on in their life? No. I'm like, to me, that's private.
Good.
Yeah, I don't need to know. The people who are closest to me will know. I'm happy to get on. I'm happy to do and discuss stuff. But it's like, it's about the books.
Yeah.
It's about having a good time. That's all that it is. If I need to be out front and talk to people, great, I'll do it. If I don't need to, I'm good with that too. I'm cool
Yeah.
either way. I've read books and loved them, and in the past. I try to be up on it now and not review them, and it's like, no, if it's impacted me in one way or another, it's like I want to share that love and stuff. And it's I've done some book events in the past, and I actually have some going up next year, which will be really fun. I'll be in Arlington, Texas, in March, and then up in Deadwood, South Dakota in June, I think it is. I haven't done like a book signing event in a while, and it's like now that I've got the backlog, it's just yeah, it's time to kind of meet people again.
Let's get back out
I'm content with just writing. Yeah, I'm content with just the writing side. Here's the book. Either you like it or you
there.
don't. I'm like kind of thing. I mean, I'm not. I read books. I support books. I support authors. But half the time when there's an event, I'm like, I could be writing. I could be reading.
That's how I am, and I'm
So
such a big bookworm. So especially here recently, like I've had so many authors that have approached me through messages and other things, and they're just like, and it's like the offering up like you're precious, and I just take it. I'm like, yes, I
we
will
need
love it. I will love it so
we
much.
yeah, we need more people like you. I mean, it's with put drama aside, it's just the enjoyment of a good book. Even
It
if it
is. It
pisses
really
you
is.
off, it did something right to make you be
Exactly.
pissed off.
Yes, and
And
that's what I want. And I found that a lot of indie authors and a lot of like the smaller self-published authors, they've got some really amazing books out there, and people have no idea. And so
mm-hmm,
that's what my main goal with this is I want to get those out there. I want to
mm,
give all of you followers an idea because people
yeah,
deserve to know about these, and the writers that put their blood, sweat, and tears into this work, they deserve to
yeah,
have that moment.
yeah. There's there's a very distinct difference, and I mean, looking back from when I first published my first book, um, like I've reread through it, and I even updated it last year, did all new covers and stuff like that. Um, it's like wow. I mean, even me, like, okay, it wasn't a bad story, it wasn't great, but it's like I've come a long way, and my
Yeah.
my storytelling has shaped. And I actually had one reader at the time. I had just that series had just finished, and she started the first book. It was before release for my romantic suspense, and she gave like the sweetest compliment. I don't think she realizes it was a compliment. And some people would take offense to it, but she's like, I had to put this book down because she's like, it seems like a completely different writer to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yay. Because I don't, my voice is always changing. This one story is different from another story, unless it's a series where it's flowing from one book to the next. I don't want my characters, I don't want the way that the story is told to sound like it is in every other story of mine. I want people to see the growth. I want people to attach to this character differently than that character differently. So it was like a proud moment for me to say, okay, good. She's, wow, this is so different. I'm like, okay, good. That's the intent. I want each book. I mean, there's some really great authors out there, but they're even traditionally published, but some of them oddly like start to almost sound the same. And I think that's a shaped
Hmm.
by the publishing company and by
Yeah.
the editors, which there's nothing wrong with. But for me, I want my voice, people to open up a book and go, okay, how's she gonna? Let me
Yeah.
let me
I want to be
situate and
surprised.
find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's
Exactly.
this book going to do? Is it going to make me? And that's what I like with authors. I love when people push boundaries and stuff like that, push themselves, because if
Yeah.
we don't push ourselves, whether it be, you're just getting started with one thing or another, it gets kind of boring, or it's like new growth. You want to move forward. You want to shape things differently. And I want to grow. I want my readers to grow. I don't want to make them feel like they're reading this same story, but different circumstance or different type of characters,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I mean, I, I, was a psych major in college. I worked with special needs kids. I did stuff in business. And then I started getting to writing because of my husband. And I was like, this is like the perfect fall into, because I was creative when I was little, didn't write or anything. Then I liked books, but I didn't. And a lot of that was because of, the required reading in high school and stuff. You're like, oh my God, Watership Down.
Not
How am
again.
I going to relate to rabbits, And it's 800 pages, and that kind of stuff. but and then I started reading. I read through college a little bit, but then I really started getting back into it. And then it's like, no, this feels like a natural progression for me. And for other people, it's like, just keep pushing, keep doing. Any indie author out there, it's gonna be weird. You're gonna have 3 feet under your stool, legs under your stool, and then you'll suddenly have 4. You'll have suddenly a better foundation. You'll start to get into your groove of what your voice is and what your writing style is, or the shifting of your writing style. It can be very easy to kind of just do the same thing over and over again. And that's not the kind of mindset that I am. It's like, if I'm not growing, I'm dying. I want to learn new information. How can I add this into my writing? How can I add this into the depths of my characters and stuff? And all that. And then the fun part too with me is I didn't go traditionally published because I like to have my creative control. I know that there's a lot of authors who don't mind giving it up, but then the book title, the book cover, even certain aspects of the story is delegated to you, and you don't really get a say in it. And so I've been able to, yes, it's extra work and I wear many hats, but I do all my own book covers. I do editing. My husband edits for me.
I was about to say, you design all of your covers, don't you?
Yeah, I design all of them. At some point, like, I try to, every once in a while, I'm like, all right, for this book, maybe I don't want to design it. And let me see if there's something or someone that might have something along the lines. And then an idea comes to me and I'm just like, I'll just make it. All my teasers and everything I do, and there's so many tools even now out there for whether people like you with podcasting, authors or anything, Canva out there, even just the free version versus, so many other software that isn't that expensive to be able to do and really learn another skill or trade set can really enhance, I think, your storytelling as well as enhance your ability to be creative too. Yeah. Sometimes I need to take a step away from writing and editing and reviewing and go into my graphic design side, and then it's like, oh, inspiration. Pinterest is amazing. I use that all the time.
And for those of you that don't know, she is the one that designed the under the cover logo. So if that doesn't tell you how amazing she is.
Thank you. Well, I was like, well, she's starting a podcast. She needs to brand herself. It's like the business side of me kicks in, and I'm like, I can do that. Let's see if she likes it. Like, I wouldn't have been offended. About it. yeah. And then I wouldn't have been offended. I was just like, let me just see, because you could always change it. I mean, brands change stuff all the time, but I was like,
right.
She's gonna need something. She's getting into this podcast thing. Let's get her going. And that's the biggest thing is like you with doing these podcasts and everything. I think a lot of people have forgotten the community side of books, between podcasters, editors, book cover designers, readers, the author itself. We've started to lose sight of and just complain. Or I didn't like this book, or that's a horrible book, or she said something or she did this, or she did that. And it's like, no, we need to reestablish that support system that was there and still is.
It just gets so serious about it now, and I think sometimes we forget that it's just a book.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, which is, and I don't mean that in any kind of an offensive way, because I know you guys work your asses off to get those books you wrote and published. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't mean that in any kind of negative way, but it's just, I mean. Like everybody gets so worked up, and they're like, if somebody doesn't like it, the audacity of you gasp, and so to just be able to just talk about it and just be normal for a change.
There's no offense with that. Like, in the grand scheme of it, it's an art. It's like looking at a painting. You're gonna have 50 people stand in front of it. You're going to have someone criticize it, loathe it, love it. It's okay. I could have done this better. I mean, in the grand scheme of it, in books, even we love other people's books. Like, as a writer, I read my own stuff and I'm like, I could have done that part better, like the older books. And it's like, and then you're like, well, it could have gone this direction. It could have gone that direction. It could have gone, you can't appease everyone. Like, that's, you just can't. And again, like you said, it's just a book. It's like when you go out to a restaurant. Did it taste good or not? You know,
Exactly.
it's good food. Good food. You know, it'll stay with you because you ate it and you're like, I want to go back there and eat it or make this again. But it's just a book, and then, you know, when you go back, and I mean, there are books that I've loved that I've kind of like reread to some degree, and I'm like, it's okay. You know,
Yeah.
but again, I'm in a different place and time in my life. Or there are ones that I didn't like at all that I now read, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this book.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know?
I'm the same way. Yeah, I'm quite literally the same way. Like I said, and I will read just about anything. Like
Hmm.
I don't think there isn't much that I won't pick up and at least try.
Yeah. I can be very
And
much a mood reader, and it's like, you know, there's that certain time of year you want certain feel, you know, like mood books. But I mean, yeah, I'm like, oh, this sounds good. And then if I don't finish the book, I don't review. It's
yeah,
like, okay, it's just not calling to me right now. It's not bad, but it's just I need something else. So
yeah,
I go to another book, you know, and then like with me, I try to read. It's really hard to read because it's like, well, I should be writing. So a lot of the times I do audiobooks, which I know isn't fair to indie authors, but that's how I get some of my reading in. But then, like, whenever, you know, like I have a couple of author friends who put out books and stuff, and I try my best to try to like support them, especially when they're putting out one. I will definitely read and leave a review, do an ARC and stuff. It just depends, but it's God. I wish there were more hours in the day to be able to to read and stuff. I mean, I have my days
yeah,
where it's like I don't sit down until usually 10, 11 o'clock at night to start writing. Reading I could do at any point, but it's like my mindset. It's like, okay, I got this done, this done, this done, this done, this done. Okay, we need to do that. We need to go here. We need to do this. We need to do that. Or I need to take care of like the teasers. I need to do teasers. I need to make sure these links work. I got to update the website. All that can be done during the day. And it's really neat because it's like, to me, by the time nighttime hits, it's like the world goes kind of quiet,
yeah,
at
yeah.
least on
I
this
can,
side. So then it's like, okay, all that chatter that's, you know, in every other house or every other whatever, it's just kind of quiet. It's like, okay. And then like last night, I mean, in less than an hour, I had 2,400 words written. And then other times I'll sit there and I just
that's
stare at the
insane.
computer and I'm like, what? And I'm just, it either it hits you or you don't. And then like, I've had months where I can, and it's really weird. I'm an odd author. I know, like some people like, how can you read more than one book? I'm writing more than one book. I jump between stories on purpose
I couldn't
because,
imagine doing that.
yeah, sometimes it's okay and other times it's tricky. But for me, if I'm not writing, that is not okay. So even if
Yeah,
I'm jumping to this story, if I pile through for a couple of days straight and I bust out like several tens of thousands of words, you know, great. You know, and then if, okay, that one's at a standstill, I'm going to jump over to this one as long as I'm consistently writing. I don't want to have a month or two where I'm not writing anything.
yeah.
And
Has there been a certain genre that you found that like kind of flows a little easier as far as writing? Like you just sit down and it's just like nonstop, or is it just kind of whatever the mood strikes you? You know what I mean? Whatever you happen to be working on at the time.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's a particular genre. It's like sometimes it's like, you know, we all see the funny memes and videos where it's like the characters are in, like while I'm doing dishes, I'm cooking, or the characters are there, and then you sit down and it's like they're shut up,
Well,
and it's like, what happened? I mean, we're here in the story. We need to get to that point. Let's fill in the gap. And so that's where it's like that's frustrating, but it jumps. Like when I was doing Petulant Shadows, I had to stop. I'd write a certain part or a certain area, and when it became too intense, I was like, all right, I need to pull away. I need to write something else, or like it's just kind of like it was an intensity where it's like, okay, we're spent mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We need a break. And so
yeah,
I jump over to a happier story or whatever, or a different story. And then it's like, you know, and while I'm working on that, I might be, you know, when I'm doing something else, then ideas come for them. Okay, I can come back to you now. Where I'm like, I've regrounded myself, kind of a thing almost. Where now it's like, yeah, okay, I can do this part. And it's just really weird because I have I have over 40 different book ideas. Some are series, some are not. I have at least 8 works in progress. I have at least let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think, not counting Petulant Shadows, 5's work in progress is completed, where it's at least a first or second draft. I'm very much in the mindset where I'm trying to be ahead so that way I don't feel like I'm rushing to write to publish in time,
You're amazing.
especially if it's a serious kind of thing. Yeah. And so I bounce around between the other works in progress. Like I have, you'll love this. I have one that's a fae type of one with little hints of Red Riding Hood feel to it. And then I've got another one that's an elven one. That's a main female character, where it's more the fantasy, but there is romance in with it, with her and this group that she develops. But it's got a kind of a Lord of the Ring-ish feel, but not. And then I've got a story that's very different from Petulant Shadows that deals with, because like I said, in college I did a psych major. Well, I took a lot of extra classes. I took philosophy and sociology and stuff like that. So I'm pulling in some sociology in it, and it's about, this story is fun. It's ultimately about a Sandman who becomes human. And it's, that's all I'm going to say. But there's some really deep,
when that arc comes out.
yeah, right. And that'll be a standalone. I'm trying to think of some of my other stories that I have, and it's so funny because my husband and I, we barely watch any TV or movies or now, and he's always like, okay, what are you working on? And he has me either read a scene of what I'm working on, because I always run things by him, and then he of course edits it, and it's easier if he already kind of knows the story in advance for editing, so that way he doesn't like get lost and not I'm like, dude, you missed, like I even catch him. I'm like, you missed this whole thing, what happened? But he's funny because like he has ultimately read the first draft of a couple of the books that are either going to be a 2 or 3 book series, and he's like, okay, where's the next book? I was like, now you know what the readers feel like. I was like, I can't release the first book until at least I've got the second one practically done, or into the third one.
You do that because one of my biggest, probably my biggest irks is got to be when I get into a series and we're like 1-2 books in, and they're like, oh, the next book will be released in 2 years. Oh, it breaks my heart. It makes me want to cry real tears.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get the concept, and that's usually a lot of the times with the traditionally published, because I feel bad for those authors because they might have written the book 3, 4, 5 years ago, and it's now just being published. And then the second and third book are already written, but they're not going to be put out until the following year or 2. You know, and it's just like, wow. But no, for me, it's, I need to, like, I did that with my first book. I wrote the first one, was in the process of marketing and publishing, and started writing the second one. And that one just, it flowed. It was like, I couldn't stop writing, which was great. But at the same time, I was like, I can't just have one book and then not publish again in a year. Yeah. But I need book 2 done, but then I don't want to rush it. So it's very different. I wrote and then immediately started marketing and getting them to be released. Whereas now it's like with Petulant Shadows, I had it written and completed back in January, February. So it was done, and I've been sitting with it, and then I'll read through and then skim through. And then it's funny because it's like I reread part. I'm one of those few authors where I will write, and then if I get stuck and then move on to another book, I'll go back when I come back to it and read through parts or all of it, and then edit and then write, because there's ideas that come about, and then it's like, oh, I need to hint to this here, so that way it'll make more sense here. So it's my writing habits and formation and stuff has changed. Like I get ideas, and then I some of them I roll with, and I'll just start writing, and then okay, that's where they've decided to stop. We'll stop and move on. I'm not quite pan-stirred. Like there's got to be an idea and a purpose to why this story, what kind of growth, what kind of thing has to happen to this character or that character, and then shape it around that. Yeah. It's like the Fae one that has hints of Red Riding Hood in it. It's very different, but yeah, it's like I see certain elements, and then it's like, okay, to get to there, where do I need to fill in the gap here? And sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. But it's fun because it's just, I like not plotting everything out. I've seen some people do it, but then, I mean, I've plotted stuff for books in my head, and then as it goes and the characters are writing it themselves, I'm like, well, that was a plot twist I didn't expect.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, so I let the story tell itself as best as possible, and that's where, you know, not to tie it slightly back into Petulant Shadows. That's where it's, to me, it's God, the higher source, whatever you want to call it, the inspiration, the direction on what is supposed to be brought out and presented to people in one form or fashion, and it's like, that's what's meant to be told, not what I thought that the book was supposed to be telling and sharing ultimately. So.
Yeah, it kind of becomes a persona of its own, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah. Same like the characters. Each book, each character has its own place in my heart. There's a part of me in them. There's, you know, might be a part of my relationships in my life in one form or fashion in them. And it's in a way my, you know, my memories without it being where people know exactly what happened to me. It might be in a slightly different context because it's in a fictional world, but it's still perspectives, ideas, new information, and it's all presented in these characters. And so, you know, it's like the different thoughts you have. Oh, here it's a character, write about them. So it's like we're schizophrenic and multiple personality all in one, because we talk to ourselves most of the time. And my husband's like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm just talking to myself. The characters, we're hashing out something at the moment. We're good. But he gets it.
I did the same thing, so.
Yeah, but he gets it because he had a story idea, a book idea, and he started it as a screenplay, but it didn't. When he wrote the screenplay, he's like, it's missing. I'm like, turn it into a book, and so he did. But and it's a thick book, it's a long book, and he actually wants to write more to it, but he's a musician, so he's creative himself, so he knows what the writing process is like too. Aside from writing a book, he knows what creativity is. I mean, he has a home studio. The man's got almost 100 songs under his belt. It's
That's awesome.
crazy. Yeah, he writes, he produces, he sings. It's crazy, but it's fun because I've inspired some of his songs, not just from me, but from my books. A couple of my books has inspired a song from him, and some of his songs have inspired pieces of my books too, which is really fun. It's like this little neat twist to it all.
That is. You guys have found a way to come full circle.
Oh yeah, big time.
Awesome.
So yeah, this is so much fun. It's like a fun way to meet people without meeting people, you know. It's like, you know,
Isn't it?
unless we lived in the same state.
I was looking through kind of like some of the comments and things that they've been popping up, and
cool.
just how I have been paying attention to you guys, so don't think that I haven't while we've been doing this.
Yeah. If you want to go through any of them, go for it. If they have any questions, I'll happily answer it. Like I said, I can ramble.
I'm the same way. If I don't, I will go. If you don't catch me, I'll go on for hours. I'll be honest, my husband, when I told him initially that I was going to be doing a podcast and doing interviews like this, this is the look that I got. Like, I was like, he said, you'll be fine. He said, just remember to breathe and let them talk. Yeah, he said, just let them talk. I have I'll start going, and then especially if I'm excited, I'm a fast talker too. So he was so worried. I said, it'll be fine.
No, fast talking, man. I grew up on the East Coast, so I know Ohio. I have family in Ohio, so it's like, it's a very different element. I've lived in a number of states in this country. I've born and raised on the East Coast. I've lived in California. We're in Texas now, and it's a whirlwind of a difference. And when we were in California, people would look at me and be like, "You don't have an accent." And that's where, you know, I break into my Brooklyn, New York accent, because I'm like, you're hearing, you know, the Snooki person from, you know, that's not New Jersey. I'm like, that's Italian New Yorker. It's like, what are you doing here? You know, it's like a completely different language. Or like, I mean, even like when I grew up, it's that stop, don't be retarded. You know, I mean, it's like
Yes.
people get offended by that, but that's how we spoke back then. It's like, you know, you call people out for stuff. Or the
Yes.
personality there. Californians either loved New York or hated it. And I'm like, there is no in between, because New
Yes.
York is a very, especially the whole tri-state area, it's a very different mindset. It's hurry up, go, get your stuff done. If your boss is asking you about something, you should have anticipated it at least 30 minutes
Yes.
ago
You
and
should
be
have already
taking care of it.
known.
You're not going to have a meeting to discuss anything. You're just going to go ahead and do it.
Yes.
Versus in California, they're like, let's get some coffee,
Let's think about
and
thinking
then
about it.
you know, maybe we'll bring in, you know, so and so, and then we'll have another coffee, and then see if this kind of resonates with all of us. It's a completely different mindset, you know, and good and bad in both ways. I mean, it's, you know, and I told people, I'm like, on the East Coast, like, you know, with Ohio weather, I'm like, you get about a month and a half combined throughout the whole year of good weather.
Yes.
So I said,
And down
they're
here we get it
grumpy
all every
because
day.
of, yeah. I said, that's all you get. It's either raining and cold, windy and cold, or snowy and sleety, or just cloudy. And I'm like, and they're miserable, you know? And it's like, but I said, when they're on the job, they're on the job. But when it comes to after hours, they're the life of the party in New York. It's a completely different thing, you know, versus California, where they're partying all day long at the
Yeah.
beach and then here and then there, you know. So it's a very different mindset, but I love it because that helps me write more dynamic characters. And then here in Texas, I mean, it's like my husband and I, we came to Texas, and he's like, I want California weather. And I was like, well, let's go to Texas. We have some friends there. Texas can't be that bad. And I was just like, yeah, Texas is our home. Like I've been in Ohio. You know, it's like, and then people are like, when are you coming home to visit? I'm like, nope, nope.
The husband and I, we moved down to Texas a few years back, and we
Okay.
were down there for a few months, and
Yeah. It's either you love it or you hate it. I
the
mean,
bugs are too big for me down there.
I saw a honking Spider-Man. Whoo. But yeah,
I
it's like
think
some
that
people,
convinced me to pack up, move back overnight. Nope.
yeah, I love it. I love the heat. I mean, growing up on the East Coast, I'll take a sunny, hot day over a cold, snowy day anytime. And then people complain here. I'm like, it's not that humid though. They're like, it's humid. I'm like, go to Ohio, go to New Jersey, go to New York. I'm like, that's humid. I was like, when you have a girl with straight hair and it frizzes, then you know it's humid.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
like,
it's
it's
bad.
not that humid. I mean, I don't, you can kind of see. I don't know what that's me. Wait, I'm like, it's like cloudy. It's been like the first cloudy day and I don't know, months. We haven't had any rain. I'm like, please rain. We need some cleansing. The plants need it, you know, and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's fun. There's so many cool people here. I mean, I've met cool people everywhere. You got your good, you got your bad wherever you go. But that's the fun part. It's like it adds to the spice of life. It adds to dynamics. It adds to
Oh, yeah.
fun storytelling. You know,
yeah.
and like you said, it's a book. You know, I mean, do I want tons of people to read my stuff? Yes. Do I want them to love it? Yes. Am I upset that they don't love it? Sometimes, but I get over it. You know,
Right.
I mean, there's going to be things we do in life that we judge ourselves on harshly, and we judge other people. It happens, and a lot of it comes from insecurity. But yeah, I want everybody to love my book, even if it pissed them off in one form or another. But if I'm not your cup of tea, I'm not your cup of tea.
Right.
You know, it is what it is. It happens, and there's authors that have written, and I'm just like, with this book. But then other ones, I'm like, oh my god, this was awesome.
Yeah.
You know. So it's just, I'm hoping, yeah. It's getting windy, but I don't mind. I had to come out to the car so it'll be quiet, because also then my kitty cat would have been bothering me. She would have been like, Mom, pay attention to me. Why are you talking to the
It is
phone?
so funny that you say that, because I had to shut my door to keep mine out, and she's literally over there jumping at the door like a wild animal. Like, I can hear her every now and then thud against it. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can hear a muffled meow. Like, she does not like to be ignored. She is the queen of the house for sure.
yeah. Our cat is a rescue, and she is a hoot. She's the most, and I think she's got elements of her and Paisley. She was abused in some form of a fashion where where she was afraid of men. When we went to the shelter to get her, we were like, all right, let's see. My husband's like, I want a black cat. They're always badly, paid attention to. There's nothing wrong with black cats. I don't believe in superstitions. Great. I was like, black cat, awesome. So we're like, we go to a second room and I see this little paw sticking out. And so they're like, you can open the door. I'm like, okay. So we open it and she literally, with her little two front paws, her little princess pose, hi, it's me. And so she just sat there and we called her out and she beelined it to him and I go, smart girl. Because I already wanted a cat. He was like, I don't know. Because we've seen cats, you hear bad stories about cats, and then we had friends where they had this one cat was feral, love bug, and completely not what you hear of with cats.
Yeah.
And so she beelined it for him, and I just started laughing. I said, "It's hook, line, and sinker now." And then as we're filling out the paperwork, now she was a dingy gray. She's a black cat. She was dingy, and she grew about a third more than what she is. And they were saying she was 6 at the time. Now she was somehow poorly abused or misused or treated, where she had such a bad, some kind of sinus mouth infection, they literally removed all her teeth.
Oh no.
Yeah. So people are like, well, what do you feed her? I started her off on pate, and now I give her ultimately this raw diet, which is ground up meats and stuff, and she's the healthiest cat out there. But the funniest thing is, and it wasn't until a couple weeks after we had her and she started coming around and, okay, you're not going to hurt me kind of people. She's green-eyed and toothless, like the dragon. So I have my very own Toothless. She's not a dragon, she's a cat, but she's black and green-eyed and toothless.
That's amazing.
It's hilarious. I started laughing so hard I was crying, and my husband's like, what's wrong with you? And when I finally told him, because we've seen those movies, he was like, oh my God. And so what did I do? I went to the store and I bought her a Toothless. I bought her the white one. So, and then this cat went from being scared of a window to now she's like, Mom, I want to go outside. I want to explore. So there's elements of Paisley in her, from being scared to like, screw this, I'm going to embrace my catness. And she tried going after a deer.
Oh no.
In the middle of the road, there's a buck. I swear to God, like at least an 8-point buck. And she's like, I'm going to get you. And I'm like, oh my God.
That is hilarious. That's just like Paisley too. Like, okay, let me just find the biggest, baddest thing that is closest to me, and let me just go tackle it out real fast.
Yeah. So I swear that animal channeled some of herself and some of her healing into Paisley, because it was just like the incident, with the wolf. Like, I'm not even going to go into it with people. Just the wolf.
Yeah.
Who will not be named. It wasn't named till later on, and then later on in the one scene where she takes off on the horse, and it's just like, I'm like, wow, Paisley. Like it's fun to see when they do certain things and how they come undone. But yeah, this I mean, I'm preparing myself because I will get choked up reading this book for like, I don't know, like the 20th time. And to reread through it, like I got very emotional on writing the ending, because I was like, all right, it needs to be climactic, but yet it needs resolution too.
Yeah. And you still left room for there to be a little bit of growth too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, God, it's like we could dissect because of the psychology side of everything that I've put into this book.
Yeah.
But
I actually have the dedication here. Like, if you don't mind, if you don't care, I can go ahead and read it. And for those of you who are just now joining, we're discussing Petulant Shadows.
Yeah.
But the dedication is those who have been abducted, trafficked, abused, and murdered, the families who have lost someone, and the sheepdogs who fight to save them. May your soul find peace. Like, just that dedication alone, that this book is going to be a lot. It's going to be intense. There's going to be heavy moments, but it's ultimately a story of hope. You know what I mean? Like, in the end, there is you follow her from the darkest points of the pit to the light.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't wish anyone to experience this in any form. As a parent, themselves as an individual, but there's so much growth that can, and empowerment. And that's, I think, the best part with Paisley through all of this. There's a, I didn't include it in the ARC, but I have it in the final ebook and the, hold on. Oh, I'm like forgetting. It's a delivery truck or something going by. There's a prayer that she says at the tail end. Ooh, we're getting rain. Yay, it's coming. I'm going to close the door. There's a prayer that she says literally while she's in the process of, like, I don't want to ruin the story for people, but it's a prayer. It's kind of like a prayer, but it's not. It's something that my husband and I heard years ago, and we use it daily in a sense because, it's a beautiful piece, and I included it to have its own page in the back of all the books. And like I said, I'm going to send you one of the hardcovers once I get them. I call it Paisley's Prayer, but it's just this beautiful thing that we came across, and it fits her and the story and all that she's been through. And it's ultimately, like I said, like, this isn't religious in the sense to push anyone religion on anybody, but it's to find the strength of, whether you call it God, Allah, source, whatever, whatever spirit within yourself in the higher calling, to empower yourself, to enhance yourself. So I've written it out because if people didn't catch it right away from when it's in the story, it's ultimately by the power of God, all curses are bound and defeated and must leave me now. You can say us if you're a family. To return to the source, to be revealed in the truth and absolved in the light, once and for all, right now, so be it, let it be done, and it is so. And it's, in a sense, you're dispelling and dispersing any and all negativity, negative emotion, whether you are harboring something, something has been done to you, you can't necessarily forgive, but maybe it's a way to let go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, to me, with Paisley, with her saying that in the story, is her final, like, I'm done allowing this emotion to dictate me.
Yeah.
And to embrace, as you know, I don't want to ruin it for anybody else, but embrace her inner light.
Yeah, that's probably the most perfect way to put it, because that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Quite literally. Literally and figuratively. I mean, like, not to be spoiler and all that.
Don't just take our word for it.
Yeah.
Petulant Shadows, for those of you who are asking in the comment.
Yes, Petulant Shadows. It comes out October 17th. And for those of you who are interested, you can look on through my website, any of my social media. I've been linking to it. You can request an ARC. I'm still giving them out. I'm still getting some out. There's going to be some big promotions and stuff going on, but not just with the ARC. You can sign up to possibly win one of 7 book boxes. So the book box will consist of the assigned limited edition hardcover, which Red's already going to get. And then you're going to get the whole book box thing, just so you know, sweetheart. You're not just going to get the book. You're going to get a book box. It's going to have some extra pieces. Yeah, right? It's going to have some extra elements to it. So it's not just the book. There's going to be some fun little stuff and some little things just overall that deal with the story as a whole. I'm hoping to include this really beautiful book from that one organization I was telling you guys about, where it's a poem/art book that was from survivors. So to me, really, that's a way. Yeah, so it's not a huge book, but it's this nice little piece to hear from the voices of people who have been trafficked in one form or fashion, and their growth from it and their healing from it. And I mean, I've seen a number of videos, and God bless them. There's some of them that, I mean, you can see the emotion side of it, but they are no longer living in fear and speaking out about it and trying to help educate people and stuff like that. And so that's what this book is centered around. It is a fiction book for anybody who's new and interested. But so that's your trigger. But it is a positive story too, in the sense of personal growth and enlightenment. Not in the religious sense, but personal strength and wherewithal, in a sense.
Yeah.
So.
Can you believe that it's been an hour?
I know. I know. We could probably continue on for who knows how long.
I guarantee it, we probably could.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy sakes. Well, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe should we wrap her up?
We can. We can always do this again. It was a pleasure to be on and to, like, I mean, I've seen your face on the videos, but to, like, chat directly with you and with everybody else who's been here and stuff, it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's
We can
really
always
nice
do
to be
this
able to do a
again.
one-on-one.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have been your first to break the ice for you, and all of that. And I hope you so much success with the podcast, and just the fact that you're willing to speak with us indie authors and to help share our stories. It's awesome. I mean, that's the stories are meant to inspire or to help people cope in one form or a fashion, to deal with, to feel like they're not alone. And you're doing such a great service. I mean, that's what people don't realize. Music, books, art in any form is meant to be cathartic. It's meant to be a form of expression to help
Yeah.
help the person heal who's done the art, versus share their experience with others who might have had something similar, and to be able to grow and heal from that art. And thank you to you for sharing us with the world, and many blessings to you and your family for that. It's just onwards, upwards from here, and all of that. And I look forward to seeing your other podcasts with some other authors and stuff. It's going to be fun. I'll tune in. I'll make sure I tune in, even though it'll probably take away from my writing time. I'm like, all right, need to get on with Rit.
Our next one, I'm actually have another one. We'll be going live again on Friday.
Oh,
At
nice.
4 o'clock p.m. And we'll
That's
be
Eastern time, right?
Yeah.
So
4 o'clock
everybody knows
p.m.
Eastern.
Eastern time, guys.
Yeah.
But I'll drop a couple videos here, probably within the next couple of days, for those of you who are wondering for who we'll have on that one.
Ooh, she's leaving it as a secret.
I gotta have some way to keep everybody hooked,
I know, right? I want to know. Like, tell me. Turn everybody else off and tell me.
But for those of you who joined in again, today we went over Petulant Shadows with the amazing Martha Sweeny. It's been amazing. I've had so much fun. It went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I won't even lie.
Good. Well, like I said, you can get me talking, but then there's times where I'm like, nothing to talk about. So I'm happy to have been on here. It's been such a pleasure. It's been an honor to meet you and add you to the fun circle of life that I'm like, I know her. So when you become like super popular, I'm like, I know her.
And thank you for every single one of you that popped in today, that viewed the live, that liked. Thank you for the few of you that sent us some roses. You guys are amazing. So
you guys are awesome. Keep reading, whether my book or anybody else's book. Keep reading and sharing all the stories that have made you feel something good and bad, because that's life.
Absolutely. Go check out Petulant Shadows, guys. You won't regret it. Don't just take my word for it. All right, darling. I will let you get off of here so that you can get on with your day. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Reach out anytime.
Absolutely. I will. I definitely will. You'll be hearing from me. That's for sure.
Good. And if I'm ever near your way for a book signing, I'll be sure to let you know.
Okay, for sure.
Because even if you can't make it, I'll be like, I'm coming to you.
I'll meet you halfway, buddy.
I'm like, I don't care if it's a 2-hour drive. Like, I'll suffer through Ohio weather just for you.
Don't get lost in any of the cornfields. You'll probably be fine.
I'll probably have too much fun. I'll be like, ooh, this could be in a book. Can we see if there are any crop circles, maybe? Can I make one?
I mean, I know a guy.
Yeah, right? I think we all know a guy. All right.
You have a good one, dear.
You too. Bye.
Bye.